TEP production. Giving out instruction. I just keep it intact, this is a fact, right and exact, I won't step back. Admiration is the feeling that inspires your brain to make you gain self-knowledge, not go insane. I'm Satan's antagonist, acknowledge what I speak. I cannot be duplicated cause I'm born unique. Brother Kareem told me if I want it, I gotta take it. Kareem told me if we need it, we gotta make it. Nasir just said stand up and be a man. You're planning to fail if you fail to plan. Keep your circle tight, know your plight, fight with all your might, study hard, stay in shape and everything will be alright.
This beat is slapping, before I make it happen I just wanna ask, may I rise higher with fire, made brighter than May, sharp lines, may climb and rhyme and may timing like sirens, may my thoughts may spray as I sway, may play with the day, may each bar may spark from the dark, may making the arc, may I shift, may gifted with riffs, may lifted no myth, may move clean, smooth in between, may carving out the scene, may words guide my glide as the tide, may ride on the inside, may minds free, may deep in the key, may shape in the sea, may I shine, may prime in my rhyme, may throw in the sign, may break norms, may storms in the red form, may lightning is born.
Let's go.
I don't know how I got here. I just know I'm never going back. Just when I thought things were already crazy, it gets worse.
I'm back.
Quan?
Sapphire struggles to deal with her husband's alleged betrayal and coming to terms with Quan being alive after thinking he was deceased. Devante tries to keep a level head while dealing with family issues and unexpected disloyalty. Memories of Dre enters Devante's life in a way that he would have never imagined.
Fire Part 2, the finale.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Peace. This is The Enemy's Public. I am Bro.Nasir. Good evening to everyone. This evening, I'm going to get into a little geopolitical topics. If you're not under a rock, you know that the United States and Israel decided to go to war with Iran. And, use every kind of excuse to do so. Now, when Donald Trump ordered an attack on Iran last year, he stated that the United States obliterated Iran's chance of producing nuclear weapons. And Iran never had nuclear weapons in the first place. We all know the lies that Benjamin Netanyahu has been telling since 1984 and 1985, well over 30 years, saying that Iran was weeks away, 2 days away, and Donald Trump is doing the same thing today, saying that Iran would have been 2 weeks away from developing nuclear weapons. And Netanyahu said it several times on different media outlets. Now, Donald Trump campaigned on bringing peace, ending wars, not starting wars. He even suggested that he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. He never brought peace anywhere, never ended any wars, but he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He's been a bully and warmonger since he's been in the office. Now, Donald Trump, he's a loser who hates losing. When the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to Marcia Corina Machado, the leader of Venezuela's democratic movement, Donald Trump was stunned. He wanted the Nobel Peace Prize knowing that he didn't deserve it. Again, Donald Trump didn't bring peace to anywhere in the world, but he wanted to be rewarded as a self-entitled, evil, warmongering, wannabe dictator. The war in Iran is a war of choice. Servicemen and women have been dragged into a conflict that will not benefit them or this country. Now, Baron Trump is of the military draft age. If you want to implement a military draft, be sure to include your son. Since you're adamant and you believe that this war is justified, and we should be engaging people violently, unjustifiably, send Baron Trump to Iran. And if he's that patriotic and he's standing by you, he should volunteer to go. Now, this day, he don't know how he wants to do it without looking like a coward. But Donald Trump wants to pull out of Iran. Yet it's all about how he looks. Everything he does is ego-driven and self-aggrandizing. It's all about the optics, which is why he frequents social media. He even started a social media platform after he became president the first time, after being kicked off Twitter. How he looks to others is very important to him. Even though it's lies and propaganda it's lies and propaganda. He'd rather appear powerful than to be powerful. So if the U.S. up and left Iran, he's worried about looking weak after being the aggressor. Yet if the U.S. did up and leave Iran, Israel will look strong and rule the entire Middle East region. So they think. For some frozen other reason, they think that Iran is going to surrender to the United States and Israel. And I don't think they will, because they're not built like that. They are believers of the Quran and the coming of the Mahdi. And they will fight to the end. And they will not surrender. Now, on the other hand, if the United States had totally obliterated Iran last year, why are they there now? If it's not about weapons, what is it? It's definitely not to liberate the people, because you're bombing and killing everything in sight. And that's not what you do when you want to liberate the people. Bombing and killing everything in sight, including schools, killing little girls. Now, after bombing Iran for over 2 weeks, Donald Trump is asking people that he's been bullying, threatening them with tariffs and military might. He's asking them for help securing the Strait of Hormuz, because that's the pipeline of the oil. And the United States is suffering financially. We got a lot of weapons, a whole lot of weapons. Yet if we were them, I say we because I'm here, but I'm not a part of that. But if the United States have a lot of weapons and they can destroy things, that's all they have. Yet war don't always mean blowing things up. And that's the thing Donald Trump wants to rule with. He wants to rule with brute. And he don't know the first thing about war. He just know about being destructive. And the United States is suffering financially because the war is very expensive. And if the United States go over there and they can't access the Strait of Hormuz, the pipeline to the oil, which is why they're there in the first place, for the oil. It's never to liberate the people. It's about regime change and putting a puppet regime in its place. Now, Donald Trump had the audacity to ask nation that he's been sunning and disrespecting for help. Then he threatened them if they didn't help. And I quote, he said, "We will remember. If you don't help him in his criminal activity, he will remember." That's what he said to them. He don't know no other way yet to do what he's been doing if he don't get his way. And that's to threaten people. And he's going to find out. He's going to find out that his methodology doesn't work. Threatening people and expecting people to adhere to you and participate in his criminal activity. When it's all said and done, my sentiment is we may have another Nuremberg trial, because Donald Trump has the soldiers committing war crimes, and he's going to try to protect himself, of course, overall. First and foremost, he will protect himself over anyone. But he don't care about the people he's using to carry out his unlawful orders through the military, which is why he got people that he can manipulate, he can indoctrinate, he can bully and force to do what he wants them to do in the name of corporate greed. Now we're going to get into some video footage of geopolitical topics. Let me share my screen. and we're going to get into it.
Actually ran a business placing law enforcement officers in off-duty jobs, and apparently he was also part of the security detail for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Our JD Miles tonight investigating how he apparently, using aliases, was able to become such a prominent figure in the public safety community.
To North Texas law enforcement officers and U.S. Capitol Police, he was known as Mike King. But sources tell us that's not the name of the man shot and killed by Dallas police on Wednesday night during an investigation into his alleged double life as a suspected criminal, also working as a security officer for a local U.S. Congresswoman. These images of Mike King standing close to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett shows how trusted he was as part of her security detail while she's been in office and while on the campaign trail during her recent run for a U.S. Senate seat. Multiple law enforcement sources say King was the man shot and killed after a standoff with Dallas police SWAT officers on Wednesday night. Police say he was chased into a hospital parking garage where he barricaded himself inside a vehicle before he was forced out by tear gas and pulled a gun on officers. Sources say he was wanted for impersonating a law enforcement officer. Sources say he claimed to be one while operating a business called Off-Duty Police Services.
Now, that's the thing. Off-duty police services. This is not impersonating. It is not impersonating by having a company called Off-Duty Police Services. This was a company, organization where he got police officers jobs when they were off duties. If they wanted to moonlight and do something else, probably security details or what have you, in stores, clubs, what have you. It was about getting police officers jobs when they were off duty. That's not impersonating. But I know how they flip things, and the fact that he's tied to Jasmine Crockett, I know it's some crooked things going on. It's something fishy about this.
An online platform to connect North Texas law enforcement officers with off-duty jobs. Authorities have yet to reveal King's real name, but sources also tell us King oversaw a team of security officers at several downtown Dallas hotels and at his own church. Sources say King drove a replica undercover law enforcement vehicle with license plates stolen from vehicles outside military offices. His background, which sources say includes a criminal history, raises serious questions about how he was able to oversee extra jobs for police officers, as well as obtain such a high-level security position for a sitting member of Congress. Documents obtained by CBS News Texas show a person named Mike King receiving payments for security services from Crockett as
He was able to do this the same way a convicted felon was able to run for president and get elected and command a military and send them off to war. You know, a criminal was a criminal. If Mike King, his alleged name, is a criminal, you know, it's all trickling down from the executive office down to the person who was just hired today. All of the United States, executive offices, legislative offices, law enforcement, it's all crooked. Nobody does things by the law. The laws, they might as well just scrap law and just become lawless because nobody obeys the law. National, municipal, or international. Nobody obeys it.
as recently as last year. We have contacted Congresswoman Crockett's office, and for now, they are declining to answer questions, as is the Dallas Police Department. JD Miles, CBS News Tech.
Peace to my brother, P. Moses. Thanks for tapping in.
Infamous sex offender Jeffrey Epstein used the secluded island to both wine and dine the rich and build a trap. Where women and children as young as 12 describe rape, sexual abuse, and trafficking.
The girls and the young women who went on the island were basic prisoners. You couldn't leave.
A CNN review of thousands of videos, photos, and emails in the DOJ files, written testimony from victims, and satellite imagery paint the clearest picture yet of how Epstein transformed this island into an elaborate crime scene. The files show the signs of abuse captured on camera.
It's just for Jeffrey's amusement.
Powerful guests publicly and repeatedly say they didn't see this abuse, but it was so obvious and bold, according to one victim, that anyone spending significant time at any of Epstein's residences would have clearly been aware of what was going on. To do what he planned, Epstein used the island's seclusion.
This is my swimming pool. No one's allowed to dock here. My beach.
Helicopter or boat were the only way visitors could get to the island he purchased for about $8 million in 1998. In 2002, satellite images show the island, Little St. James, was barely developed. Just one main house here and a few small buildings on the northern tip of the roughly 70-acre island. Over the next 2 decades, you can see Epstein's building spree as he transformed it into a luxurious vacation escape, expanding the main home to the north. He built a larger pool, new cabanas, upgraded rooms, a dental office for some unknown reason, and this unusual-looking building, referred to in the files as a temple. He also bought a $300,000 antique desk and statues worth about $100,000. As Epstein developed his getaway, he wrote repeatedly in emails to business and government leaders, "Come visit me on my island." Even after Epstein was convicted in 2008 for sex crimes, including one involving a minor, the visitors kept coming. Like LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, who explained on a podcast late last year that he briefly went to the island while fundraising for MIT.
He was a masterful networker.
But beneath Epstein's business dealings, Virgin Islands prosecutors say Epstein coerced girls as young as 12 into sexual activity. One victim said she was trapped on the island. "I tried to escape Epstein and the others by trying to swim off after spending the day being raped." Epstein's home decor even showed signs of his crimes.
There were bunk beds. And I said to him, I said, "Oh my God, are you expecting grandchildren?" And he said, "No, these are for the girls."
We spoke with architect and interior designer Robert Couturier. He was hired by Epstein to work on the island. He backed out of the project after a few months and then told the FBI this is what Epstein instructed.
Especially for the bunk rooms, they had to be for girls. They had to be for girls. There's dance pink and these sorts of things.
So there's no mistake.
See, Donald Trump is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He's using the war that he sent our young people to die for corporate greed. He's using that war as a weapon of mass distraction, distracting people, from wanting to see the Epstein files. And people still want to see the Epstein files. We must not be distracted with these weapons of mass distraction.
Mistaking this wasn't for women.
There's no mistaking. You don't put women on bunk beds, I'm sorry. Unless you are in some youth hostel somewhere, but you don't have guest rooms with bunk beds for ladies. And inside the house, there was another little room with computers. And I said, "What is this room?" And he said, "This room is for the girls when they have fun. And they play with their computers." The whole house was very odd because we were on the beach and the house had heavy dark curtains everywhere. The windows were never really opened. It felt terrible. And he also asked me, he said, "I want to build a big TV room, a movie cinema underneath the pool, and I will furnish it with beds." Everybody knew what was happening on that island. even his staff, people worked for him.
A former staffer said the main home had many pictures of young girls, some topless, looking about 15 to 16 years old. In room after room of the island home, the files show visible signs of something off, like Epstein in his kitchen chasing girls or young women. And his staff noticed. A former chef said every hour Epstein would take a girl down to his master bedroom, then order his maid to clean up. Another staffer worried about Epstein's guests. He described seeing an unnamed man with girls who did not look 18 and they were all naked. He also told the FBI he saw then Prince Andrew grinding against some young girl in the pool. UK authorities arrested Andrew last month, saying they're reviewing claims he shared sensitive government information with Epstein. Andrew was released and denies he did anything wrong. Victims say visitors could have seen all this as early as the mid-2000s. One victim described a 2007 visit by Google co-founder Sergey Brin and then fiancé and 23andMe co-founder Anne Wojcicki. They observed that we did not speak and that we remained mute. Sergey and Anne witnessed our souls and bodies riddled with fear. They said nothing. They did nothing. A man who looks like Brin, about the same age as he was in 2007, is seen in this picture in the DOJ files, though it is undated. Former head of Victoria's Secret, Les Wexner, described his visit in a video deposition.
Walked around for a while, left. Probably an hour visit.
On that trip, do you recall seeing any prominent figures on the island?
No, it was a pretty crummy island.
After Epstein's 2008 sex crimes conviction, an email shows the Sultan from the United Arab Emirates, Ahmed bin Sulayem, paid a visit. The Sultan separately traded lewd emails with Epstein, telling him he was going to sample a fresh 100%.
The entire world of politics, entertainment, you name it, so-called elite, do this all over. I know the focal point is Epstein Island and the Epstein files, but they do this all over the world. And that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump wants the Gaza Strip. He want to put one of these on the Gaza Strip. You want to take that from the Palestinians and put a playground where they can do this to little children on the Gaza Strip.
Female Russian at my yacht. Howard Lutnick, now Trump's Commerce Secretary, dropped by in 2012. He's seen here in this undated photo. Lutnick said last month he saw nothing concerning.
We had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation.
What do you think about the people who did go to the island and say they never saw anything?
Listen, I think you can decide that you're blind. You can decide that you only want to see what you want to see. I think it's a decision.
Call it what it is. They're telling a damn lie. Just say they're lying. Call it what it is. They're liars. If they went to that island and said that they seen nothing, they lied. Period.
That you make. But the idea that a person would go to that island and not see something weird is impossible to me. For me to have seen it, everybody else had to see it.
When you think back to how obvious it was to you, do you wonder about, no one saying anything back then?
I've been wondering for the last 15 years. If in 2010 I knew it and we all knew it and I was interrogated and nothing happened, and that he died in 2019 having perpetrated more crimes from 2010 to 2019, and that we could have saved so many young women that wouldn't have had to go through what they went through.
Now we're going to go to Professor Zhang. 3 scenarios if U.S. continue war with Iran. He gives a real good breakdown, Professor Jiang. His breakdowns are good. And he predicted this war too.
Okay, guys, so I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now and pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you. because what I'm going.
He predicted what would go on, and other people predicted what was going on. If you go back and you watch some videos of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said that they was going to do this, and he said what would happen if they do it. They would get in and not be able to come out, especially if they put boots on the ground. There's no way out, because in order for them to go, if they drop them down, they would have to go in to get them, and they won't be able to resupply. It would be very difficult for them to resupply with boots on the ground, because Iran being a fortress of mountains, and they wouldn't know where the attacks are coming from. They won't know where anything's coming from. Rocket launchers, gunshots, what have you, bombs, whatever. Because for one, you are in an unfamiliar area. See, it's easy to fly over something and shoot stuff from a distance. But when you get in somebody's territory where they know where everything's at and you don't, that's a different type of war.
I'm going to walk you through today is not a hypothesis. This is not a movie. This is the most likely direction that this conflict is heading. And depending on which scenario plays out, your life, your economy, your energy bills, your food prices will never be the same again. Today, we're going to talk about.
We need to understand also some of the war strategies of the U.S. under Donald Trump, like snatching a leader out of a country, bringing him and his wife to New York with no crime being committed, just a mere accusation. He gets taken out of his country. These are war crimes. These are actual crimes. Kidnapping. Kidnap a man and bring him from Venezuela to New York. And then, a war crime. First, you did a war crime in Iran last year when you bombed Iran indiscriminately for nothing, for absolutely nothing. And then shooting people on the boat, bombing somebody on a boat in international waters that's not yours or anybody else's, international waters, and you bomb somebody, and then when there's survivors, you kill the survivors that's clinging to the boat. You bomb a second bomb to make sure everybody's dead. That's a war crime. When you bomb stuff indiscriminately like that, these are all kinds of damn crimes. Peace to my good brother, Talk Your Talk Media, my brother Greedy Vegan. These are actual war crimes that's being committed. And I'm absolutely certain that Donald Trump, the United States, has something to do with the grid, the electric grid in Cuba being just shut off. I'm absolutely certain that he has something to do with that. Turning their electricity off in the whole entire island. Hospitals, no light. Schools, no lights. No lights in the whole entire Cuba. And my mind thinking is, if he would do that over there, if we were to start rebelling and revolting, he'd probably do it here. He'd probably do it during the summer when it's hot as hell. He would do something like that because he's unhinged. He's the type of man who would do that. We need to keep that in mind.
About 3 scenarios if the United States enters a full-scale war with Iran, not airstrikes, not sanctions, not proxy conflict. I mean, full war, boots on the ground, total commitment, okay? And we're going to use game theory to understand this, which means we're going to look at the incentives, the geography, the resources, and the weaknesses of every player involved. And by the end of this video, you will understand this conflict better than 99% of people on the planet. All right, let's go. First, before we get to the 3 scenarios, I need you to understand one fundamental thing. Okay, this is really important. The United States and Iran are not equal opponents. And I don't mean that in the way that you think. Yes, America has the most powerful military on paper, the biggest navy, the most advanced aircraft, nuclear weapons. Okay, we know all of this. But here's what most people miss. America's military was designed for a completely different kind of war. It was built during the Cold War to flex on the Soviet Union, to look powerful, to scare people. It was never truly built to fight a guerrilla war, a drone war, a mountain war against a nation of 90 million people who have been preparing for this exact conflict for 45 years. Okay? Iran. On the other hand, this is a nation under sanctions since 1979. They have been cut off from the global economy their entire modern existence. And what did that do? It forced them to become self-sufficient, creative, and asymmetric in how they fight. Okay, asymmetric just means you fight a completely different kind of war than your enemy expects. So when I say full war, I mean America has committed, no going back. And the moment that happens, one of three scenarios unfolds. Let me walk you through each one. Okay, scenario number one. This is what the Americans and Israelis are hoping for. This is the best case scenario from their perspective. And I'll tell you right now, it is the least likely, okay? So the idea here comes from something called shock and awe military doctrine. You've seen this before in Iraq in 2003. The idea is simple. You decapitate the leadership, you destroy command and control, and the population either surrenders or revolts against their own government. The body falls when you cut off the head, okay? In this scenario, the Americans do the following. They launch massive airstrikes on Tehran. They target military infrastructure, power grids, communication towers. They use special operations forces to eliminate the remaining leadership of the Revolutionary Guard. They squeeze the population so hard that a revolution breaks out from within. The regime collapses within weeks. A pro-Western government is installed, and the Americans declare victory. Now, why does this not work against Iran? Okay, and this is where the geography becomes really critical. Pull up a map of Iran, guys. What do you see? Mountains. Okay, the entire western and northern border of Iran is mountain ranges. The Zagros Mountains, the Alborz Mountains, these are not small hills. These are fortress walls. You cannot bomb what you cannot find. And Iran has spent decades hiding its military assets deep inside these mountains. Missile bases, drone factories, command bunkers, fuel storage. They're all underground, inside mountains, completely protected from airstrikes. So shock and awe worked in Iraq because Iraq is flat desert. There is nowhere to hide in a flat desert. But Iran is not Iraq, okay? This is a completely different terrain and a completely different people. And here's the second reason this fails. The Iranians have already decentralized their command structure. This is really important. Every regional commander has his own orders, his own resources, his own mission. Even if you bomb Tehran into rubble, the military keeps fighting. There is no single head to cut off. So shock and awe is completely ineffective here. And yet, this is probably what the Americans try first, because this is what their military doctrine tells them.
So this is what you get when you get incompetent people or incompetent person who surround himself around incompetent people, and you get a foolish, gullible, self-aggrandizing, ego-driven person who don't think things out. They didn't think this out, but they painted themselves in a corner with starting this war. They painted themselves in a corner. Again, Donald Trump wants to leave, but he can't without looking like a coward.
Them to do. And that's the tragedy of it. Scenario one probability, low, maybe 10 to 15%. Okay, let's move on. Or volley, Okay, guys, scenario 2. This is the most dangerous scenario. This is the one that keeps strategic analysts awake at night. And honestly, this is the most likely outcome if America commits fully. In this scenario, the initial American offensive partially succeeds. They destroy a lot of infrastructure in Iran. They kill a lot of people. Maybe they even occupy parts of southern Iran, the coastal areas near the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? But here is where it goes wrong, because occupying Iran is not the same as defeating Iran. Iran has a population of 90 million people. Okay, for context, Iraq had 25 million when the Americans invaded in 2003, and look how that went. The Americans spent 20 years in Iraq and Afghanistan and left with nothing to show for it. Now multiply that problem by 4.
Exactly. All that fighting, toppling Saddam Hussein, all that fighting, all that money, they left with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even a puppet regime. Couldn't even establish a puppet regime over there. Just imagine with the steadfastness that the people of Iran has, with 90 million people who are believers. Myself and the brother Greedy Vegan discussed indoctrination and beliefs. These people are steadfast believers of the Quran and the return of the Mahdi, and they will fight till the end. They're not surrendering. And people in the West don't get it. They just don't get it.
And add a population that is deeply religious, that believes in martyrdom as a sacred obligation, and that just watched their supreme leader get killed on international news. You are not pacifying this population ever. Okay, so what happens in this scenario is a full-scale insurgency, guerrilla warfare in the mountains and cities, IEDs, drone swarms targeting American convoys and bases, suicide attacks. And here's the part that most people don't talk about: proxy escalation, because Iran has proxies everywhere. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Shia militias in Iraq, in Syria, in Bahrain. If America is bogged down in Iran, every single one of these groups activates simultaneously. American bases across the entire Middle East are under attack every single day. The entire region is on fire. And now look at the economic consequences. The Strait of Hormuz, this tiny 33-kilometer wide waterway, is closed. Okay, 20% of the entire world's oil supply passes through this strait. China gets 40% of its oil from this region. Japan gets 75%.
And they have no stake in making a deal with the United States when with this percentile of oil that they are receiving. Why would they aid the United States in securing the Strait of Hormuz? It makes no sense in all the other countries who get their oil from this area. They don't have no stake in helping the United States. He's asking them for help. And they're like, hell no, we're not helping you. We're not sending nobody to help you.
India depends on 60%. If this strait is closed for months, and in this scenario, it will be closed, the global economy goes into a severe recession. Oil prices triple. Inflation explodes worldwide. Stock markets crash. And the American public, who is now watching flag-draped coffins come home every week and paying $10 a gallon for gas, turns completely against this war. This is the Vietnam scenario, except it's in a region that controls the energy supply of the entire planet. This is the most likely scenario, guys. Probably.
Absolutely, my brother P. Moses. Risk. Stupid risk. Uncalculated, unthought of risk. Indiscriminate risk. That's what Donald Trump is doing. Didn't think anything out. I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. And you're going to take what they give you to in that process.
Probability about 50 to 55%. Okay, scenario 3. I want you to take a deep breath before I walk you through this one, because this is a scenario where this conflict stops being a Middle East war and becomes something that affects every single country on earth. In this scenario, the war escalates beyond Iran and America. And here's how that happens step by step. Okay, let me walk you through the dominoes. First, Russia. Russia cannot allow Iran to fall. Okay, this is non-negotiable for Moscow. Why? Because if Iran falls to American military force, Russia is next. Iran is a critical buffer state, a critical energy partner.
And they cannot allow the United States to get control of the state of Hormuz or any of the oil there. They cannot allow the United States to get in control of it. So Russia, China, Japan, and Vietnam is going to side with Iran. And not only that, when you're a bully and somebody and they get a chance to get you, they're gonna get you. If you sunning and you disrespecting people, when that person get a chance to get you, they gonna get you. And that's what the United States been doing. Sunning people, disrespecting people, threatening people with tariffs, military might. When they get a chance to get you, they gonna get you.
Partner and a critical ally in resisting American dominance. So in this scenario, Russia begins supplying Iran with advanced air defense systems, intelligence, possibly troops disguised as advisors. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened in Ukraine in the early stages. Second, domino China. China is more calculated here. Okay, China's primary interest is energy and trade. And China has a massive economic relationship with Iran through the Belt and Road Initiative. If Iran collapses, China loses a critical node in its entire Eurasian strategy. So China starts putting economic pressure on America. They begin reducing their holdings of US Treasury bonds. They accelerate the development of a non-dollar oil trading system. And they quietly provide Iran with satellite intelligence and drone.
And a lot of these countries are in the BRICS coalition. And that's another part of this war also. The dollar standard is falling, and they're trying desperately to save the dollar standard because the dollar is not worth anything besides military might, and that's the only thing they can do when it comes to trading and when it comes to the oil or when it comes to anything. They can threaten people with military might, and a lot of them capitulate to the United States because of the military might. And that's why the United States spends so much money on military might, because they want to be able to threaten people.
Technology. This is economic warfare combined with indirect military support. Third domino, the nuclear question. And this is the one that nobody wants to say out loud. If Iran is losing this war, truly losing, facing regime collapse, facing dismemberment as a nation, do they reach for a nuclear weapon? In a K, Iran has always officially denied having nuclear weapons. But let's be honest about what the intelligence community actually believes. If a government believes its existence is about to end historically, nations make desperate decisions. And this is a scenario where that calculation becomes real. And if that happens, if a nuclear weapon is used anywhere in this conflict, we are in territory that humanity has never been in before. Since Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the rules of the entire world change overnight. This is scenario 3, World War. Probability?
The rules have not only changed, the rules have been scrapped, starting with Israel. You can even go back to 2003. Nobody's obeying the Geneva Convention. the rules of engagement when it comes to war. Nobody's obeying that, especially Israel, and Donald Trump is following suit. He's not having no concern about international law, the Geneva Convention, the rules of engagement when it comes to war. Just kill everything in sight, bomb everything. They don't even care what they bomb, civilians and all. But they say they want to liberate the people, free the people.
Let's say 25 to 30%, and rising every week. This conflict continues. Okay, guys, so let's step back and look at this from a pure game theory perspective. Because here's what's really fascinating about this conflict from an analytical standpoint. Both sides have what we call a dominant strategy that leads to mutual destruction. Okay? Iran's dominant strategy is to close the Strait of Hormuz, destroy the GCC economies, unite the Shia world into a single jihad, and collapse the petrodollar. America's dominant strategy is to use military force, decapitate the Iranian government, fracture Iran along ethnic lines, and maintain control of Middle Eastern oil.
Salute to my brother, Cuban Crisis. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for tapping in.
Both strategies make perfect sense from each player's individual perspective. And both strategies together lead to catastrophe for the entire world. This is what game theorists call a Nash equilibrium in a negative sum game, where everyone plays their best move and everyone loses. The only escape from this equilibrium is negotiation. But here is the problem, and this is really...
They messed that up. No one around this world can trust the negotiation of the United States, because the negotiation is really submission. When they negotiate like the mob, like gangsters. Usually a negotiation is not going to be in the favor of the two equally. Someone's going to come out on top in an uneven trade with a negotiation, concerning the United States. If you're negotiating with the United States, they're going to get a lion's share. And I was always taught there's no robbery in a fair exchange. If there's not a fair exchange, somebody's getting robbed.
Really important. Negotiation requires both sides to believe they are better off talking than fighting. And right now, the Iranians believe they are fighting a holy war of vengeance. And the Americans believe they are fighting for the future of their empire and the petrodollar. Neither side.
And that's the main thing. He's absolutely correct. The United States is fixated on empire. It's all about empire to them. Empire, being able to be on top and run the world, especially with somebody like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to be 81 this year. And it's absolutely certain he don't got long he don't got long from here. Hold on. Brother Minister Akbar. I didn't know that, brother. I gotta make some phone calls when I get off this. I gotta make some phone calls when I get off this live.
Currently has the incentive to stop. Okay? So what does this mean for you? For the average person watching this video? It means the next 6 to 18 months are going to be extraordinarily turbulent. Energy prices will rise, global trade will be disrupted, financial markets will be volatile, and the geopolitical world order that has existed since 1945 will be fundamentally challenged. So to summarize, guys, 3 scenarios. 1, quick American victory through shock and awe. Least likely. Probably doesn't work because of Iranian geography and decentralized command. 2, a long grinding insurgency that bleeds America dry economically and militarily while the world economy suffers. Most likely, this is the Afghanistan model, but 10 times larger and 10 times more consequential. 3, full global escalation involving Russia, China, nuclear risk, and a restructuring of the entire world order. Less likely, but increasingly possible with every escalation. What I want you to take away from this video is not fear, okay? Fear is not useful. What is useful is understanding. Because when you understand the game theory, when you understand the geography, the incentives, the weaknesses of each player, you can see what's coming before it happens. And that is the most powerful thing you can have in a world that is changing this fast. If you want me to go deeper on any...
It is happening fast also. Things are happening so fast. And I was told that when it started happening, it's going to happen fast. That's why we was told by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, this is something we should not wish for because it's going to happen fast. It's going to overwhelm a lot of people. And it's going to be anarchy. It's going to be anarchy. And it's coming to that.
Any one of these scenarios, the economics, the nuclear question, the role of China and Russia, let me know in the comments below. Because we have a lot more to cover. And this story is far from over. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
We're going to go why the U.S. could lose war with Iran by the same professor.
Basically, when you fight a war, you have to have a correct cost pyramid. Okay? And the most simple cost pyramid, okay, is this. Infantry, soldiers, okay? All right? They're at the bottom. Why? Because they're the cheapest. What's above them? Armor, okay? Artillery, tanks. They're more expensive to produce. You need more resources, you need more time. Then you have naval, right? Then you have air. Okay, does that make sense? This is the cost pyramid. And cost pyramid just is this question of like, how much energy, how much time, how much resources do you need to produce a certain product, okay? It costs you very little to produce a soldier, but it costs you a lot to produce an airplane. And this is important because wars are usually wars of attrition, meaning that you have to put all your resources into winning the war, okay? So this is just production capacity. And this is the most standard model that you have of a cost pyramid for a military war, okay? Does that make sense, guys? The problem is that the United States have an inverse pyramid, okay? Meaning that air is what's dominant, then naval, then armor, then soldiers. You can't fight a war like this. I mean, the moment you choose to fight a war like this, you've lost the war because you either take out the...
This is how they're fighting the war. They're fighting the war backwards. And this is exactly how the United States is fighting the war in Iran right now. Airstrikes, naval strikes, with arms, and then soldiers, like drones and things of that nature. And then they think they're going to get on the ground, and then it's going to be the same. It's going to be terrible. Soldiers are already saying they want to come home. Soldiers over there saying they want to come home.
Out the country in like 2 days, or you scoot over, but you cannot replenish your forces. Now, I know this is hard to understand, but 1991, the Persian Gulf War, 2003, the Iraq War, these are not real wars, okay? Because the Americans were so dominant and Iraq was so weak that it was basically a video game, all right? It was just these pilots flying around, just bombing everything, okay? It's like guys in tanks just running over the Iraqi army. Those were just video games. But this Iran thing is a real war, and therefore you cannot fight a war like this. If you want to win this war, the only thing you can do is return to a realistic cost pyramid. You don't have a choice in the matter, right? Because again, your cheapest product are soldiers, right? And the most expensive are airplanes. You cannot afford to lose an airplane in order to save a life of a soldier. Eventually, this cost-benefit analysis will blow up on you. Does that make sense, guys? All right, so if the United States wants to win this war, then it has no choice but to use ground troops, to use soldiers as the main force of its military. Any questions so far? All right. Okay. Now the question then is, will the United States use ground troops? I already said that if the United States is to win this war, it has no choice but to use ground troops. But will the United States use ground troops? And a lot is determined by the game theory strategies of the different players, okay? So let's look at the four major players in this war. You have US, you have Israel, you have Saudi Arabia, and you have Iran, okay? All right? So the United States and Iran, they're pretty easy to understand. What the United States wants to do is destroy Iran, okay? Why? Because if we were to destroy Iran, the United States would have complete control over Middle East oil, and it would control global trade for the Strait of Hormuz. And therefore, the United States can maintain.
That's what it's all about. It's not about Iran having weapons of mass destruction, because according to Trump last June, when he bombed Iran, he said they totally obliterated their chances. So this is why they're over there. They want the Strait of Hormuz. That's why they want it secured. That's why he's asking for help securing it, because once they do that, they will have gotten everything. They got Greenland, they got Venezuela, largest crude in the world. The Strait of Hormuz would be another checkmate. And then they coming for Canada. They came for Canada, and they're coming for Cuba. Coming for Cuba too. They turned the people lights off. That's wicked. I know the United States is behind that. I know they are. That's wicked.
Maintain its empire, okay? So a really simple objective. Let's destroy Iran. We don't care how, we don't care why. Let's just go do it, okay? Iran has another strategy, which is control Strait of Hormuz and destroy. CENTCOM is basically the American military in the Middle East, called Central Command, okay? So those are two major military objectives of Iran. And we can understand why. Because if the CENTCOM is destroyed, Iran has complete control over the Middle East. Now Dubai, now Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait have to pay taxes to Iran. Now Iran, the new kid, is now the bully of the Middle East, right? Now it's a hegemon. That is the political objective of this war, okay? Israel is a bit more complicated, all right? For Israel, one other thing is humble Israel. That's the other thing, because even if you defeat the United States, you still have to deal with Israel, okay? And Israel is the great military power of the Middle East. So you want to humble them. You want to weaken them. You can't destroy Israel because Israel has nuclear weapons, right? You piss off Israel, those nukes start flying. You don't want that, right? So those are the three major political objectives for Iran. Control the Strait of Hormuz, destroy CENTCOM, and humble Israel, okay? If you are Israel, actually, for you, the strategy is different. What you want to do is this. You want to destroy CENTCOM and destroy Iran, okay? Those are your objectives. Why? Because if you destroy both the United States and you destroy Iran, then you are the sole hegemon in the Middle East, okay? Also destroy the GCC.
What Israel wants. They want to control the entire region. And if they're able to destroy and take down Iran, Israel will be in control of the entire region. If the United States pull out and Israel stay, and Israel defeat Iran, which I doubt they will without nukes. They won't defeat them without nukes. They will not do that. Not without nukes. They will, in order for them to defeat Iran, they will have to nuke them. It'll be the same scenario if they go down in the mountains. If the United States go down in those mountains, and it's a boots on the ground war, it's going to get real ugly then. It's going to get ugly because they're in unfamiliar territory, and it's hard for you to win a war and you're in unfamiliar territory.
Arabia as well. Why? Because once Saudi Arabia is destroyed, all its resources belong to you, okay? And this creates something called the Greater Israel Project, which is what we'll discuss next class. But as you can see, that's really important, is that even though the United States and Israel are allies, their ultimate strategy is different. Their objectives are different. In fact, they're in conflict, okay? They have Saudi Arabia. What does Saudi Arabia want to do? Well, destroy Iran, because if you destroy Iran, you have complete...
Salute my brother, DJ Cuddy. Salute. How you doing, good brother?
I'm doing well, Elder. How you doing, my guy?
I'm good, brother. I'll just get into some geopolitical topics, brother. That's all. That's all we're doing this evening. Letting the professor
Shout out to the professor.
letting the professor cook. He's doing this thing. I like him. He's all right. If you need me to stop the video, brother, let me know and I'll stop it.
Most definitely. I'm right here, my guy.
What's
Yes, sir.
Complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. Then you can build boldly, okay? But you also want to destroy the U.S. and you want to humble Israel, all right? Does that make sense? All right? So by understanding how each player perceives the game, we can now understand how they will go about their strategy. So the United States just wants to destroy Iran. But as you can see, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Iran all want to destroy the United States. And how do you do that? By forcing the United States into a long ground war, right? Therefore, if you're Israel, you don't want to use nukes. Why? Because nukes would end the war too quickly. You want to drag this war out as long as possible to force the United States to send in ground troops. And then you're like, well, why doesn't the United States use nuclear weapons? And the answer, I already told you, the escalation ladder. It needs to justify itself to the people, okay? When you do anything, all right, when you do anything, you have to worry about certain factors, okay? You have to worry about troop morale. Your soldiers have to believe that they are fighting for a good cause, okay? You have to worry about public opinion. You have to make sure that the world is on your side. You have to worry about politics, political will. You have to make sure the people are unified.
In all actuality, I don't think Trump give a damn about that because he didn't go to Congress. He said nothing to us about bombing Iran in the first damn place. He just did shit behind everybody's back. He didn't discuss that shit with nobody besides people who in his immediate constituency. He didn't go to nobody, not even Republican Senate and Congress. He didn't go to nobody. So I don't think he give a damn about no public morale or none of that shit. I just don't think he give a damn about that.
And you have to worry about enemy morale. You don't want to piss off your enemy so much that they go into an extreme, jump the escalation ladder to extreme beyond your control. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so as you can see, war is extremely complicated. It's not just about weaponry. It's not just about resources. It's ultimately about controlling the narrative, controlling the political landscape, okay? Marshaling the resources in a proper way that is strategically beneficial, all right? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, so just answer two questions. Will the United States use ground troops? Yes, it will, because Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Israel will work together to force a ground invasion, even though the United States doesn't want to do so. But unfortunately, the United States doesn't have a clear, coherent strategy. It's passive. Therefore, it can be manipulated into sending a ground invasion, okay? And the second question is, will Israel and the United States use nuclear weapons? And the answer is no, because it's not in their best interest to use nuclear weapons. Okay, Israel wants the United States to lose this war. And so that means a long war that destroys the American political will to fight anymore.
I can believe that because Benjamin Netanyahu is just that manipulative that he would use the United States as a big ass down pawn, because when you got somebody as ego driven and self-aggrandizing as Donald Trump, he can easily be manipulated. Easily, because he's that stupid and gullible.
Or foreign wars. If America loses, Israel becomes a dominant power in the Middle East. Okay?
And that's what he wants. Now, I want to go into this super rich's secret doomsday bunker.
Behind the thinking of the Cold War's
in the event that there is conflict out of control and there's like nuclear weapons being fired, because other nations are getting involved, and there's no telling what's going to happen, because all these people are sick all around the world. They're sick, all of them. Anyone who could say, well, let me develop something that's that destructive, I don't care if it's here or there, these some evil ass people. I don't care who it is. They're evil. Yet they have Raven Rock and a sort of a doomsday bunker, damn near 800 feet under the ground, that they'll leave us here to die, but they'll go down in it. The president, all his constituents, and certain elite people, rich people, billionaires, hundreds of millionaires, they have somewhere where they can go. It's like a city underground, and fair use, fair use.
Doomsday planners is a strange mentality. It's okay to destroy the planet and kill nearly everyone on it. Because if you're one of the elite, you get to survive.
These crazy Cold War bunkers are like fantasy landscapes. They're kind of like monuments to elite delusion and paranoia, because they won't work, but they embody this self-justification. Yeah, sure, we can invest billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in atomic weapons and even use them, and civilization will survive. That's deranged thinking.
It's 2017, just after Trump's inauguration. Media theorist Douglas Rushkoff shows up at an exclusive resort to deliver a talk about the digital future to a group of wealthy tech executives.
I was in the green room waiting to go on when 5 men came into the green room and sat around this little table they had there. And I found out that there was no talk for me to go do, that these guys were the talk. And they didn't want to hear the whole thing I had prepared. They just started peppering me with these questions, like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Which one should they bet on? Or augmented reality or virtual reality, which did I think would win? And then the third question, the one that made me realize that this was more than I signed up for, they said, Alaska or New Zealand? Meaning, where should they situate their bunkers for the event?
For years, New Zealand has been an apocalypse escape destination for America's elite. Notable home buyers include the tech tycoon Peter Thiel, an outspoken supporter of Donald Trump. He's also bet that America was not the place to be if things collapsed, so he arranged for a New Zealand pass.
Of course not. They'll leave everybody else here to die while they go to safety when they are the troublemakers. They caused all the conflict, but they'll leave the people who had nothing to do with the conflict to die.
Passport just in case. Other American elites were getting similar ideas.
The rest of my hour with them was them asking me all these like really specific questions about how to water test their plans for the apocalypse, for the electromagnetic pulse, or the economic downturn, or the disease or war that would necessitate them leaving their Silicon Valley ranches and retreating to these fortified bunkers in the middle of nowhere.
The government's secret plans to save its...
Mind you, these bunkers are hundreds of feet in the ground. I think Raven Rock is like almost 800 feet below the surface of the ground. That's deep. That's like deep. Skyscraper deep.
Itself now have competition from the secret plans of the 1%. From converted Cold War bunkers and missile silos to specially outfitted yachts, a doomsday industry caters to the mega rich. Luxury bunkers with indoor pools, artificial sunlight, and supplies to stay sealed off from the world for years. From the Cold War till now, the most powerful people end up being the ones most afraid. And today, even as the actions of a few at the top have helped push poverty rates near their highest levels in half a century, it's the rich who fear losing control. Elite anxiety is on the rise.
And what's crazy about that is, look at all these pawns who are willing to be pawns for the so-called elite, and rich. They don't benefit from none of this, but they're willing to be foot soldiers for somebody who don't give a damn about them. They don't even care. Talking about indoctrination, talking about being brainwashed.
The billionaires, they understand that they're playing a dangerous game, that they are running out of room to externalize the damage of the way their companies operate. Eventually, there's going to be, the social unrest.
Gonna move on from this and go to top aide Intel official Joe Kent. He resigned over the war.
We just learned, get this, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has just announced he's resigning. CNN national security reporter Zachary Cohn is joining us right now. Zachary, what more can you tell us about this dramatic development?
Yeah, Wolf, this appears to be a significant resignation at the senior-most levels of the Trump intelligence community. This is Joe Kent. He was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He appearing to post on X a resignation letter that he submitted, citing misgivings over the Trump administration's decision to launch its war with Iran. Now, Kent, in this letter, writes in part, quote, "As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife, Shannon, in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives." Now, Kent, in his apparent post on X, does also seem to suggest that there was no imminent threat, that it has been used and cited by the Trump administration as justification for launching this war against Iran. He says that essentially the administration manufactured this idea of an imminent threat, and that is part of the reason why he's deciding to resign from his post today.
Let me read a little bit from this letter that he wrote to President Trump. This is Joseph Kent. He works for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. But he writes this, he says, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were
He did nothing that he said he's going to do. He said he would not start wars. He would end wars. He said food would go down, food went up, gas prices would go down. They went all the way up now because of the war. Everything that he said he'd do, he did the exact opposite. So he cannot be trusted, and I don't blame Joe Kent for resigning, because I wouldn't be able to do it in good conscience either. He's the anti-terrorism intel official, and he knows what's going on. He knows what Donald Trump is doing is not right, so he can't in good conscience support it. So he just did what he wanted to do, and that's resign. I'll leave too.
trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation." And he added this, "In your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS." He goes on and says more, Sabrina, but those are powerful words.
I think what's also important here is this is an appointee that was not someone that you could consider not aligned with the president. I mean, this is someone that espoused the MAGA-based views and was appointed by, of course, Tulsi Gabbard. And so the fact that he has issued a very public resignation, and the fact that he's also said that Iran did not pose an imminent threat to the United States, a case that was made by Donald Trump multiple times and many other officials in this administration, including the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying that Iran posed an immediate threat to the United States. And he's someone that clearly had access to intelligence matters, saying that they did not. I think you could potentially see other resignations from this.
Exactly, because he has the intel. He's the intel official, the top intel official. So he knows that this war is unlawful. He knows it firsthand. If he's the top intel official for anti-terrorism, he knows, because he gathers, not necessarily gather all of it, but he's the top intel official. Everything comes to him. So he knows that this war is unjustified and it's a war of choice. Iran doesn't have any.
This administration, people deep within the MAGA base that do not support this war of choice. And frankly, it is a war of choice. It is something that the president chose to do. And he has said, kind of on his own conscience, that he decided to initiate this war as well.
Yeah, he even said that he got Israel on board.
Yes.
But in this letter, Joe Kent says he believes that this is started because of pressure from.
See, Donald Trump think people are stupid. See, he's so self-aggrandizing, so ego-driven, that he would say that he got Israel on board with the war instead of Israel getting him on board. That's just the way he think. Self-aggrandizing, and he just has a big ass ego, and he knows that people know, but he'll just he'll know that you know and lie right in your face.
From Israel and its American lobby. I'm wondering, General, what you think about the one of the last lines here. He says, "You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards." I'm wondering, at this point, several weeks into this war, you have Iran saying that the Strait of Hormuz will never go back to the conditions where it was before. How do you chart a new course?
He needs to cut his losses, that being President Trump. He needs to cut his losses and shut this down as quick as he possibly can. That would be the best thing at this solution.
This is a retired brigade general, Steve Anderson, and he's right. But Donald Trump, again, everything he do is ego-driven, and if he did this, he will look like he's tucking his tail. By doing the right thing, he will look like he's tucking his tail. And Donald Trump is not going to do that. It will surprise me, and I will come back and do a retraction if he did that. But Donald Trump's not built like that. He don't have a humble bone in his whole entire body.
I'm not sure if he's got the capability, the wherewithal to actually do that politically. But I mean, this is not going well, and it's going to get worse. And bully for Mr. Joe Kent for having the political courage to stand up for what he believes. This is a guy that's a big-time MAGA supporter, has always been, very much like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you had on your show yesterday. I mean, these are significant resignations from the MAGA world, and people need to take note. And I hope that this leads to the resignation of other members of the administration, because he is absolutely spot on target. This is not in the best interest of the United States to continue this war, and President Trump needs to shut it down as quickly as he possibly can.
Let me read another sentence or two from his resignation letter. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've already seen 13 American service members die in this war. Over 200 have been injured, and their conditions have ranged from very serious to some have been returned to duty. But I think, we've heard Pete Hegseth say this time and again, that more Americans could lose their lives. And I think this letter makes it very clear. Is that worth it? Is that worth the cost? And this is someone that's obviously gone to war on behalf of our country and seen the cost that it takes, not just on the people who are putting their lives on the line, but on the country. And so I think it is really important that not only is he putting this out today, but this is someone that is a deep figure within the MAGA base and someone that is aligned with the president and is breaking very publicly with him.
And it's personal for him, as you noted, Wolf, that his wife was killed in Syria in 2019 by an ISIS bomber. You know, I just want to go back to you, General. Clearly, you don't agree with this war. But at the same time, Israel is saying that it has taken out more top Iranian officials, including one who has been overseeing a lot of what Iran has been doing in its counterattacks. And I just wonder if you see any progress, any benefit so far from this war in terms of safety toward the United States because of some of the people who have been taken out.
First of all, I commend
the United States. Israel was never a threat to the United States. So taking any of those leaders out did not benefit the United States. Iran did not have weapons of mass destruction. Well, they have weapons of mass destruction. They do. All bombs are weapons of mass destruction, from a grenade all the way to the what you call it, the hypersonic bomb. All bombs are weapons of mass destruction, but they don't have nukes. They don't have nukes. And that's according to Trump. He said he totally obliterated their chances. So according to Trump, they don't have nukes. And then the question still remains, why are they there if that's what happened last year? War of choice. And it's about corporate greed. It's about stealing, taking. They're takers.
And the military performance thus far in the war. I mean, it's been superb. And look, no one's shedding any tears for the Khomeini's demise and a new Ayatollah, and the aggressive nature that they have had towards in the region and been a threat in the region. I mean, I'm all for doing something about the Iranians, but we were not provoked. And the problem here is that we're in the middle of a long war, at least a long war for them. I mean, I remember what Henry Kissinger said about Vietnam. He said that, you know, the Americans will lose by not winning, and the Vietnamese will win by not losing. The Iranians just want to sustain themselves, stay in power as long as they possibly can, continue to harass the United States, like attacking Baghdad and the embassy there and whatnot, and stay alive long enough so that they can claim victory. And that's what they will do if they do this long enough.
Let's go actually to the White House, where we're going to find our Kevin Liptak, who's been tracking any responses coming from the administration. What's the latest, Kevin?
Yeah, nothing official yet from the president, although we are expecting to see him any moment now in the Oval Office with the Taoiseach of Ireland. He's here for St. Patrick's Day. But you do hear, you know, officials who are within the Trump orbit beginning to sound off on this. You know, one former White House official described Joe Kent as an egomaniac, someone who is resigning this position in quite a high-profile fashion. And I think that is probably along the lines of what we will hear from the president if and when he decides to respond to this. But I do think it will be difficult for him to entirely dismiss this resignation as someone, you know, with Trump derangement syndrome, as someone who is a Trump enemy, as he does so often, just because Joe Kent has so often aligned himself with the president. He is of the MAGA wing of the party. That's how he ran as a candidate for Congress 2 times in Washington state. And it is why he was selected for this position in the first place. You know, his confirmation was not an easy one by any means. He was, you know, very narrowly confirmed by the Senate, and all of these questions about conspiracies around the 2020 election, about potential ties to white nationalists, all arose in his confirmation hearings. And for all of those reasons, I think it will be difficult for the president to sort of entirely distance himself from this individual who is now coming out very publicly decrying some of the perceived rationale for the war in Iran. And I do think it will also put in a very difficult position Joe Kent's boss, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who has espoused, in previous lives, the very same positions about questioning the adventurism of previous iterations of the Republican Party, questioning nation-building pursuits. She, too, was a veteran, just like Joe Kent. And so putting her, I think, in a difficult position. But certainly we expect to hear from the president very soon, and hopefully he will be asked about all of this.
We'll see what he says. All right, Kevin Liptak, thank you very, very much. I want to bring in CNN K-File senior editor Andrew Kaczynski, who's joining us on the phone. Andrew, I know you had previously reported that Joe Kent gave a previously unreported interview back in 2022 to Grayson Arnold, a Nazi sympathizer and white nationalist. A spokesperson for Kent, who was then running for Congress at the time, said, and I'm quoting him now, Joe Kent had no idea who that individual was when he encountered him on the street, and Joe Kent has repeatedly condemned the statements that the individual is accused of making, end quote. Andrew, what more can you tell us about Kent's past?
Well, look, Joe Kent's resignation is dramatic, but it's really not particularly surprising if you look at his record. He's a former Green Beret. He did numerous tours overseas. His first wife, Shannon, was a military member who was killed overseas in a suicide bombing in Syria that targeted U.S. troops. What's remarkable here, too, is that he entered politics in 2021 to primary a Republican who had actually voted to impeach Trump. He had 2 failed bids for Congress. And when he entered politics, he specifically said it was in part because he witnessed, and this is a direct quote from one of his videos launching his campaign, the failures of the government establishment in keeping us at war in the Middle East, watching officials, as he said, quote, lie about regime change wars. And during that campaign, both campaigns, he railed against the military-industrial complex. He railed against endless wars. In one of the interviews he gave, he literally said, let's not start a new war with Iran. That was a 2021 interview. At the same time, as you mentioned, he has been a polarizing figure during his congressional run. He did face repeated scrutiny over contacts with far-right figures and extremist figures, which he later disavowed. And of course, he works for Tulsi Gabbard, who before joining the administration had a long history of opposing war with Iran. And not that long ago, just 5-6 years ago, she was literally selling, as she ran for Congress, merchandise that said no war with Iran on her campaign website. So this also puts a lot of questions at her, as has been mentioned here. But ultimately, I do think that his resignation here reflects his longstanding opposition to American intervention abroad.
This is the last video. Trump issues shock announcement.
Well, let's talk about this the way that civilized people would talk about it.
Not this one. The Shahid Bolson. Trump issues shock announcement amid bombshell resignation.
This morning, news broke that Donald Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, resigned, wherein he posted on Twitter, quote, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Donald Trump was then asked about this high-profile resignation. Here's what he said.
Your national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy.
Then why did you hire him to be your top official of terrorism? Then you said you didn't know him, and if you hired him to be the top official, you didn't see him as weak. You're saying this about the man because the man resigned.
But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran. When somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people.
Quote, I didn't know him well. There it is. The old never even met the guy. It's a tale as old as.
That's what he say. He said he hasn't been around down Epstein. He always deny knowing somebody or deny him being somewhere where he's in damn happy ass pictures being at the place with the person he said he didn't know.
Oldest time as far as Donald Trump is concerned, which of course is undercut by, well, this.
But I'd like to introduce Joe to say a few words. A very incredible guy and with a tremendous future, in my opinion. Right now, he's only thinking about Congress, and maybe he'll be there for a number of years, and we don't know what's going to happen, but I think this man has a tremendous future, very special person. Thank you very much. Come on over, Joe.
See, Donald Trump act like there's not videos and pictures of him with the guy, and this is what he said about the same guy that he said he didn't know. You act like you know him if you didn't know him.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President.
But other than that, hardly knew the guy. And look, to be clear, this is a feature, not a bug of this presidency. Think about all of the people he's discarded to help himself. He fired Ronna McDaniel as RNC chair as if she was the reason that Republicans had been losing elections and not Donald Trump himself. He trashed his own former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, writing, I don't need any advice from Rhino Kayleigh McEnany on Fox. Just had a giant victory over badly failing candidate Birdbrain, and she's telling me what I can do better. Save your advice for Nikki. Trump said that Paul Manafort, his campaign chairman, came into the campaign very late and was with us for a very short period of time. He called George Papadopoulos, his foreign policy advisor, a low-level volunteer. He said of Gordon Sondland, his EU ambassador and campaign donor, I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well. He said Michael Cohen, his own lawyer and former fixer, did a, quote, tiny fraction of his legal work. Of Sidney Powell, he wrote, despite the fake news reports to the contrary, and without even reaching out to ask the Trump campaign, Ms. Powell was not my attorney and never was. In fact, she would have been conflicted. And the list goes on and on. But the point here is clear. Donald Trump will throw you under the bus the moment he feels you become politically inconvenient for him. And the only thing more embarrassing than being thrown under the bus by Trump is the fact that any of these people sell their soul to him in the first place, thinking that somehow it won't eventually happen to them too. At some point, everyone will be discarded by Trump, even the people who are so deluded into thinking that they, unlike everyone else, are special. And the same goes for the people who invest their money into him and his company and his meme coins or whatever new scams pop up on a daily basis. Let me not mince words
I don't understand how they don't see it or they haven't seen it, you know, especially with his past, as far as how he do business with people and he don't keep his end of the deal. That's been his pattern all his life. I believe when Donald Trump first started talking, the first thing he said was a damn lie.
Donald Trump does not care about you. He is not looking to help you. Everyone in Trump's life is there in service of him and not the other way around. There is no mutual benefit to aligning yourself with Trump. You are there to provide something to him, and in return, you should expect nothing. Now, going back to Trump's response here, he says this.
It's a good thing that he's out because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it.
That, of course, Iran was a threat, a point that Caroline Leavitt dutifully echoed this morning as well, writing, there are many false claims in this letter, but let me address one specifically, that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. This is the same false claim the Democrats and some in the liberal media have been repeating over and over, which is interesting because just days ago, Caroline Leavitt herself tweeted, quote, to be clear, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists, and it never did. In other words, Iran poses no threat to our homeland, and they never did. But also Democrats and the liberal media are lying when they say that Iran poses no threat to our homeland. Makes sense for everyone? And finally, notice that Donald Trump said this.
Many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that President should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon.
That we had no choice but to bomb Iran, and that everyone's been saying that it's our only option, which again is weird because I seem to remember Trump having some slightly different thoughts on this matter when he was pandering to voters for more than a decade.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
You know, I've said before, I think Obama will go to war with Iran because I think he views it as good politically. And that's pretty sad. And it's a pretty sad thing to have to say. But I think he will absolutely go to war with Iran. I think he views that as a positive from a political standpoint. And I think he's just waiting for the right moment.
At some point, there's no question, as sure as you're sitting here, unless something else happens first, like somebody wanting to get elected, and the only way he's going to do it is to start a war with Iran. Because I tell you what, if Iran isn't negotiating now, they got to be crazy.
So you have oil, you have interest, and you have the potential of wars. I mean, you know, we're looking at Iran. I happen to think that the president is going to start a war with Iran. I think it'll be a short-term popular thing to do, and I think he's going to do that for political reasons. You want to know the truth. I don't know if anybody says it as openly, but I think he's going to start a war with Iran, and that'll be short-term popular. If you remember Bush was unbeatable for about 2 months, and then all of a sudden the world set in when he attacked Iraq, and he went from very popular to not popular at all. But I think that Obama will start in some form of war with Iran, and I think that'll make him very popular for a short period of time. So that'll make him hard to beat also.
We are finally putting America first. Our policy of never-ending war, regime change, and nation building is being replaced by the clear-eyed pursuit of American interests.
That's what he campaigned on. He campaigned on ending wars and not getting us into another war, a long-standing war.
It is the job of our military to protect our security, not to be the policeman of the world. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
But hey, aside from all of that, how could we really know where Trump stood?
I think, Brian, you spelled peace wrong, Brian. You spelled peace wrong. It's the other piece. You want a piece of the pie. He is peace, and he's the president of peace. All over the world, he want a piece of what they got. I think you used the wrong piece, Brian.
Good. So look, the reality is that if people are now resigning from Donald Trump's White House, it's because they want off this sinking ship. Joe Kent, like everybody else, can see the writing on the wall, can see that this is the least popular war at its outset in American history, can see that the White House has no plan or no objective.
Salute in the winter skates. Thanks for tapping in. Now, Donald Trump, he said this is what he campaigned on. You've seen him say it several times on different campaign on his campaign trail. Said at different times that he's going to end wars. He even said he's going to end the war between Israel and Palestine and the war over in Russia and Ukraine. He said he's going to end those wars. But no, again, I think Donald Trump has been unhinged, and he should have never been allowed to run, as a matter of fact, because he's a convicted criminal of 34 felonies. I don't understand how he was able to run in the first place. Being a convicted felon should have disqualified him from running. But when he was convicted of 34 felonies, he went to court to be sentenced, and the judge postponed the sentence for 4 years. For 4 years, they postponed the sentence while he became president when he should have been disqualified. He should have been sentenced to prison. Now, if any one of us was a convicted felon, we wouldn't even be able to work in the post office. But this man can be president as a 34-count convicted felon. with charges pending.
Objective, can see that Americans are dying every day, can see that oil prices are now surging, can see that there wasn't even an attempt to sell this to the American people, and can see that the president who engaged in it did so in clear violation of his own campaign promise not to do the exact thing he is doing right now. Donald Trump may be perfectly content to play his supporters for fools because he thinks they're morons, but it turns out that they have at least some agency, and a few people are even willing to use it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more,
I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. My brother, Nwinji Skates, Talk Your Talk Media, my brother, the comrade, Greedy Vegan, P. Moses, salute to you, good brother, Cuban Crisis. Good seeing you, brother. I haven't seen you. Thank you for the information about Minister Akbar. I gotta make some phone calls when I get off here. My brother Cuddy. Thank you to the wife for tapping in. I know she's watching. And to next time, this is your brother Nasir, and this is the Enemy's Public. Share the stream, like, share, subscribe. Peace.
Production. Giving out instructions. I just keep it intact, this is a fact, right and exact, I won't step back. Admiration is the feeling that inspires your brain to make you gain self-knowledge, not go insane.